Welcome, my friends. We're back with another live stream. I'm Sergio Paez, and I got some wonderful friends here with me. We've got Maria and Allan, and we're going to be talking about an amazing topic here, which is getting an art education online. It's so important. Now, let me introduce you guys because I think my audience knows a little bit about Allan McKay because we've done a couple of mutual things before, but I haven't introduced you, Maria, and maybe we also do kind of mutual things, and I wanted to, just how about you tell people who you are and what you're doing?
Absolutely. Awesome to be here. Sergio, thank you so much for having me. My name is Maria JD. I'm one of the hosts at Art Heroes 3D Art Academy. We specialize on teaching character art to professionals in the industry, and it's awesome to be here. It's I'm sure it's going to be a great chat.
Cool. And Allan, we go way back a little bit when we first started. Well, we were at ILM. I think we kind of crossed paths when we were there because you were doing a lot of visual effects.
I took your lunch money one day. Yeah, is it Jabba Jabba the Hutt?
Right, Jabba the Hutt, the coffee shop. Yeah. And I mean, you're just an amazing visual effects artist. And I got to tag along with one of your visual effects kind of exercises that you did in Santa Monica.
And you're the star of the show on that thing.
No way, man. It was so fun. And so anyway, tell the people what you do for those who don't know who Allan is. And then we can get into the details of how to get ahead in this business, which is sometimes hard to find, hard to get through.
Absolutely. Sure. I mean, I'm Allan McKay. I've been working in the visual effects industry for around 25 years now. Worked for a lot of big studios like Industrial Light and Magic and Blur Studio and many others. I blow stuff up. I work on set quite a lot, as well as doing a lot of consulting for various studios. And on top of that, I do a lot of training as well, both on YouTube as well as I've got my personal mentorship. So keep fairly busy, but it's stuff I enjoy. So you never have to work a day in your life if you enjoy what you do, whatever that lie is. But anyway.
And you guys are both a huge inspiration for me because we've had this educational platform with Storyboard Art and kind of training story artists. And I learn a lot from both of you. And we actually, just to give people a little bit of background, we meet on a regular basis, kind of talk about the industry and talk about education in general. And Allan, my friend, you're a huge inspiration because you're one of the reasons why we are doing a mentorship program. You told me about your program that you have. And now, Maria, you also have a mentorship program. And so it's almost like—
That is so true.
It's like the thing to do.
Inspired by both of you guys, just like to make a full-on program because we used to have kind of a smaller courses. And this year, I'm so excited that we put it all together to make an actual, like almost a year-long program where we teach everything 0 to hero character art related and make sure that it's as complete as we can possibly make it for different level of character artists, for everybody who's starting or kind of taking their career to the next level. But anyway, I'm just like, I think it makes so much sense when, when it's literally mentoring people from get-go to the final result, would it be a solid job or the first step in their career, first gigs, just I think that is a definitely big step for us, and it's probably one of the best programs we've done so far.
Oh, that's so awesome. And one of the reasons why, at least at Storyboard Art, why we got into this was because we're trying to kind of fill a gap between the educational space for learning how to do visual storytelling and storyboarding and pre-production. There wasn't much stuff out there. There's like animation, there's other things. And so we started this platform, and it's grown over the years. Now, each one of you, not only are you guys great artists, but then you're also are teaching people how to do this. You're bringing them into the entertainment industry. And I don't know, I want to give people at least an insight on what you think they should be doing to be able to take advantage of the resources that are out there online. Because I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, I feel like the traditional way, the traditional kind of college, university level education, it fails some people. It's super expensive. It may not have a focused curriculum that you need to get into the business. And what we do is so unique when it comes to the entertainment field. I just feel like now with the whole online explosion of education, there's many more outlets where you can do this stuff. So, I mean, Allan, what do you think about this? Like how are you training people to become visual effects artists?
For me, I make them panic and I give them way too much information from the get-go. But no, I honestly, because I completely agree. I've got very mixed feelings about traditional colleges, especially when it comes to mediums that are changing quite drastically. So like, let's say with storyboarding, the medium mightn't have changed too much, but the industry has. And if you're not being around the right people who are using what you create and leveraging that in filmmaking, in other words, like virtual production, all these other things are coming into play, it plays a big role. And I think that in this day and age, you've got access to so much amazing information that beforehand we didn't have. And the one thing for me is that I think it's great to have that accountability of showing up every day at a school and having someone kind of force you to be there. And it's great for networking. But beyond that, you know, not to be disrespectful for anyone who teaches at college, but you got to think someone working in the film industry, what they're being paid versus someone who's teaching at a college, what they're being paid. Typically people who are really good at what they do are going to be, you know, rewarded for that at a much higher level. So what I mean by that is that you're not going to be able to go to a college and expect to get industry level stuff, because typically those who are teaching aren't necessarily in the industry. I know that sounds really mean to say, but I mean it from the
it's true. It's true though. It's rare to get access to the people, right? I mean, and that's what you guys do so well too, Maria, is that the people on your platform are working pros, right? Like Marlon is amazing at doing the sculptures.
100%. I would just second everything that Allan is saying about educators in the art space. And there is definitely sometimes, you know, the progress gap kind of like, if you think of like how frequently software updates and how frequently pipelines get just like shuffled around, it actually happens almost on like an annual basis. And we have to catch up. We as artists, we have to be like on top of things. And by the time this information reaches an educational institution, I mean, come on, it's going to take 5-10 years. You're going to graduate, and you're going to graduate with an outdated information that nobody really cared about updating, because I mean, come on, you're getting like classic stuff. So that's why actually we make sure that we only work with people who are still in the industry, who are working in the studios. And I guess that's why, you know, like somebody in the chat just mentioned that the mentorship is a new trend. Yes, of course, it is a new trend, because you need to be like taking advantage of like the whole opportunity of learning from, you know, like the current status quo in the industry. And I feel personally that it's super important in our case for all of us artists to be just like right there, and especially like, you know, in visual effects and digital art, we're just have to stay on top of the technology, would that be AI or VR, AR, whatever it is. You know, there are so many trends. You have to know what's fluff and what's actually the current thing in the industry. It will be pretty hard to get a job like 3 years from now if you don't know any of this. So that's you know, that's kind of how we roll. And actually also answering your questions like about why. So we started the whole adventure of teaching character art also because of this gap, that you can grab, you know, like information about tools. You can go to YouTube, you can learn anything, but in the end of the day, what is that thing that's going to guarantee you a job? What is going to make you an employable artist? So we see a bunch of people that have a little bit of knowledge, but in the end of the day, when our friends or colleagues from studios ask us, hey, can you recommend a good artist? You're like, well, you know, I know people that just like have random knowledge. So we just wanted to create this tool that will help us craft a solid, employable character artist from pretty much anyone who has an ambition to do so. So,
Yeah.
and that's our why. And it's been an amazing and really rewarding journey. So that's
Yeah.
answering the question.
So awesome.
I want to jump in real quick and say the same thing. Like, I think that like I've been doing my mentorship for 7 years now, and the reason that I started it, which thank you for reminding me, is because we were trying to hire like 50 artists, and we had like a list of about 3 that actually made it onto the thing out of like several hundred. And it was just so difficult to actually find good artists who are ready to work, who are capable. And the ones who were good had employers lining up out the door to hire them. So that kind of, for at least for me, was my motivation, was not to teach like, hey, you're going to learn everything about the software. It's you're going to learn what I need you to do, so that way you could work for me, or I could recommend you for other jobs as well. So in other words, what is it going to take to get you industry ready, and forget all the fluff, as Maria mentioned as well. Like, just focus on what is really going to allow you to hit the ground running. So as I always say, you could sit down in a chair tomorrow and start doing the work, because ultimately that's what people care about. They don't care about your education, whether you have a degree or any of these other things. It's, can I hire you to sit down tomorrow in a chair and start producing work? Because usually when we're hiring, we're looking to solve one problem, which is, I want to tick the box and move on to the next other 100 people on the team I need to hire. And a lot of that gets kind of misconstrued. A lot of people think that, well, I need to go get all these other things, and they waste all the time, they waste all the money, 4 years of their life, $100,000 learning all these things that don't matter. And from experience of actually helping a lot of colleges with curriculums, usually once they set a curriculum in stone, they don't want to change it a year later. Like, oh, the new technology has changed, we got to adjust it.
Yes.
This is the curriculum. It took us forever to develop and forever to approve. We're going to stick with this, even if the industry is actually changing. So it's, again, that's where the frustration comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me give a big shout out to everybody who's joining us right now. There's a really good conversation going on in this chat, and they're calling out people like Schoolism, Steven Silver, your platforms, Allan and Maria. And well, it's great that you guys have found Storyboard Art. Animation Mentor, that's another one that started online. They just got bought out by a bigger company. So it's amazing that they had success by
Next time I see Carlos, I'll have to get him to buy me dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the fact that they broke the mold of just the traditional education, and they're doing it in such a way, because Animation Mentor, because I know Carlos and Bobby and those guys, when they started that, they created a program that created really solid animators. And that's something that I think, well, at least I'm proud of people that have come through our programs and are now working in the industry. They're now like working artists, and you don't have to take the liberal arts and the biology and all this math classes. That's great. If you want to learn that, go learn that somewhere else. You can learn it cheaper and probably better from another platform. But if you want to learn what we know what to do, which is visual storytelling, you come to us, because we're going to train you directly. None of this. So, well, I guess maybe that brings up another question. How important do you think it is to have a title, a degree? There's master's degrees in these things, right? I see people getting master's degrees in storyboarding, and I wonder, hey, what's that all about?
All right. That is a question that we get asked all the time. Actually, this is something that comes up on our streams. Like, seriously, every time somebody would ask for a recommendation in the school, this will be like, hey guys, do you need a degree? I don't know about you guys, but I personally have not met any single artist in the industry that would be saying that, hey, I really needed my diploma, or like they asked me to show my diploma when I got a job. I don't know, like I'm still waiting for this one person to tell me that they needed their university diploma. No, seriously, it's like, and there is, there is a little kind of a another side of it. It's like whether you need an arts degree, like whether you need to be a professional artist then. To be a digital artist, to be a storyboard artist, like a visual effects artist or a character artist, like in this case. So that's like, a slightly different angle. But if we're just talking about general, like master's degree, or, general, like kind of a university diploma, I would say for people who are not in the US, not in Europe, and want to change country, it will be probably the only case where you definitely need that, because for visas and for all these travel arrangements, it definitely makes your life easier when you show that, just to drop an example, I don't know if that's relevant to people in the audience, but for example, Australia and New Zealand have this visa program for like matching talent with like lacking opportunity, kind of a, or like existing opportunity with lacking talent. And that is when you might need your diploma to show that you qualify to take this opportunity in the country, but it has nothing to do with your employment. However, it can open doors. That is like
Right.
probably the only example I can think of where you actually need to show that you're a qualified digital artist. And obviously, at like this level, they will only ask for university diploma of like established educational institution. That does guarantee you a job? Obviously not. Again, like,
Right.
that's something else. Yeah, so that's kind of my 5 cents, and maybe we can talk about like being an artist versus being a digital artist a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always think it's like opportunity cost. Like, I think that really what the goal is to get a job, right? So the longer you're going to study, the more that you're prolonging ever getting that job in the first place. And I think a lot of people, once they've done their 4-year degree, then they finally get into the industry, they're going to be like, wow, I'm in the industry. This is amazing. And it took so much to get here. And my education didn't really play a role in this. But like my portfolio is what mattered. But the main thing is that once you're in, you're like, man, like imagine if I had started 4 years earlier. And that's where a lot of us think like how far further we could be ahead. So as Maria's saying about titles, I don't think like the master's degree really matters too much. I care if you're doing brain surgery on me. I want to see your title and your
Right.
degrees, but your
Even then, there's no guarantee, right? There's no guarantee of
public
quality
school,
if you got a medical license.
exactly.
Right?
But if I'm hiring you to do work, I don't care about the piece of paper. I care about, show me your work. That's what's more important. So I always think like the longer you're studying, the more you're putting off or delaying where you could be. So that 4 years, like imagine like 4 years later, you could be a mid-level, a senior level artist at that point. I saw a really cool meme the other day, which was a screenshot of on eBay. It's like, I'm sure photoshopped, but it was like for sale, only used, never used, cost $40,000. No, cost $200,000 for sale for $800 or whatever. It's like the guy's degree. And I thought that was brilliant because it's just like, yeah, that's so true. And I'm sure everyone can relate to that. I was chatting with Tim Miller, who is one of the founders of Blur Studio. He directed Deadpool and Terminator Dark Fate, a few other films. And I remember him saying to me, like, this would have been 20 years ago, around 19 years ago. And I remember him saying to me, degrees, like, basically it's a waste of time and a waste of money. We're actually talking about visas at the time. And at the time, it meant that for every year of your degree you didn't have, you needed 4 years experience. That's changed since then, but it was just a very archaic way of looking at things like 20 years ago. But that was just it. Like his frustration was that typically the people who come in who have a 4-year degree, he feels like they need a 16-year degree to compensate for the lack of experience. So in other words, it was just like this kind of math that he had said at the time out of frustration, but it basically was that, it really comes down to your work. And visas are important because that's one area where it isn't the studio that's actually deciding whether or not to hire you. It's that the country needs
the government, right, is
exactly
getting in the way of the paperwork.
Some countries like Australia and New Zealand, thank you, are pretty adapted, quick at switching things around with that. Switzerland's another one. America tends to be quite behind on that. And because of that, you need to think ahead now about how to really qualify for the visa. And it's not so much just your degree. That's just like a small piece of it. It's really to do with work experience as well as printed media. I knew about this very early on. And actually one of my friends, Dan Rorty, he owns Rorty Studios, I think it's what it's called. He's like a phenomenal character artist. Like I remember asking him one day, because I saw his website at the time where the about page was just chock-a-block full of just screenshots of every single thing that he's ever been mentioned in. And I remember asking him, like, was that about page for your website, or was that for immigration? And he's like, oh, it's totally for immigration, because he wanted to go work for EA in the States. He's Canadian. And that's just it. Like, the more that, if you've got a big plan of working in another country, then it's good to know ahead of time about these things. I've got a few podcasts on this topic, interviewed wetters, HR people, and visa people, stuff like that. So that's definitely a big topic, that the more that you think about that stuff now, the more you can say, okay, well, what are the qualifications that count? You know, how about I get in some magazines? How about I enter some contests and win them? You know, the more that you can flesh the stuff out, so that way, instead of worrying about like, I've got a 4-year degree, it's like, here's me being mentioned as like a big name in the industry all over the place. Or here's me only early into the industry, but already having all these credentials of being my work being published everywhere, whatever it might be. So the more that you think about that, the more it's going to help you in the long run. And yeah, it's just going to make it a no-brainer, because then the studio that wants to hire you can just go to their lawyer and say, here's all their paperwork, which proves that, they know what they know. And that way the degree doesn't really matter as much.
I love that. It seems like there's so many more outlets and opportunities for people to do it. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring up this subject is, like, what would you recommend for somebody completely starting out? Let's say they haven't gone to college, they haven't spent a bunch of money yet. Like, maybe they're a young artist, or maybe transitioning from another discipline or some kind of field. How would you go about getting an education online? What would you start doing? What would you look? I mean, other than, of course, I would send, if they're into visual effects, I'd send them your way, Allan. If they want to do, character stuff and 3D sculpture, of course, I'm going to send them to Art Heroes. But, what other things can they do? Should they prepare? Like, do you think they're going to have the discipline to be able to get through a program? Is there a mindset change that you have to do?
Yeah.
Like, what would somebody do? Young kid coming out of high school.
That's a great question, Sergio. And do you think like what you just said, actually, I'll just start right there. First of all, just to conclude a little bit the conversation from the previous topic, I would just want to drop a seed here, so that people do not forget that we're living in a post-pandemic world where remote opportunities are normalized. I hate the word normalized, but it has
it's just changed. It's evolved into something different.
We wasted 5 minutes talking about visas that don't apply anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing, right? That hopefully they can get rid of all that visa nonsense.
Who cares? Who cares? So we constantly talk about this in the team, because just to give any of like the millions of examples, my co-founder at Art Heroes, Marlon, he's never worked in a studio a day, and he's worked with all of the best studios out there, from like Blur, Goodbye Kansas, EA, all of them. He's never been to a physical studio in like his 10-15 years career. And he started back in the days when remote was just like the weird animal. And still, when you're a good artist, no matter where you live, you can be hired. And that's kudos to people in the chat that are saying that you can be hired right from Instagram. This is not a joke. This is actually happening. You are hired right of Instagram. You are hired right of ArtStation. You are hired for what you do. And now going back to your question, Sergio, like, what do you actually have to do? I think one very important thing is you have to be laser focused. So you have to choose your mojo. You have to know what you like and go for it. Because if you are in charge of your own education, you cannot be learning all these things that typically college would make you learn. Because college is the place where they just they put a safety cushion, and they're like, okay, let's teach this, this, and that, so that they have options, because we've got, I don't know, like 1,000 people there, and we need to make sure that they choose by the time they graduate in 4 years. So when you're in charge, you don't need this, safety cushion. You can just go after, your thing. Would that be environment art or storyboard or whatever you think you like most, or just like to select like at least okay, like maximum, I don't know, like 2-3 disciplines, but you can't be very, very dispersed, because it's just it just doesn't combine in the actual work environment. It's very rare that it's the same person in the team that does storyboarding and characters. I mean, I've never seen this happening. You can have like skills that combine, like that work well together. For example, be a good groomer, like grooming artist, and be a good character artist. That's like perfectly fine. But you have to be smart about it. So craft your path and talk to as many people as you can reach out to just understand the industry and take this moment to understand how the industry functions, and then like basically by attending talks like this, by attending events, meetups, whatever, just understand what is that you don't know, and then fill the gaps. I mean, it sounds really simple, but
Right. And,
but like by putting yourself later on in the educational environment, and nowadays online courses and like online programs, they provide you like a full on experience. We can still network, you can still meet people, you can still like be inspired and pushed by other artists. So that is now currently done 100% by all the, well, like let's say all the good online schools.
Yeah, you
So
bring
you,
up a great
yeah,
advantage there. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
sure,
off.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. No, that's it. That's it.
I mean, I was just going to say that one of the advantages that I think you're pointing out is that you get access to people that you wouldn't normally get. I remember when I was trying to get an education or going to school, I wouldn't dream of having like the top animators or the top filmmakers even having a course. Like some of these people make themselves available, and it's just a rare opportunity that you even get access to these people. And because they're in this online format, that there's the remote work thing that we're doing here, you get access to people like Allan, you get access to people like Marlon, and well, humbly, I throw myself in there too in the group, but it's like, how else are you going to learn this stuff, or who better to learn from than the people actually doing the work and working on the movies in the entertainment industry that you want to be doing yourself. So that's something I think you can't necessarily get at a 4-year education university.
That's a really good point. I'll just point out is that like I've signed up for courses intentionally just because I know it's going to be an opportunity to network with a particular person. It's just like, great, I'm going to drop, in some cases like $5,000-$6,000 on like a pretty high-end course, but all I care about is that I'm going to be in 1 or 2 live calls with this person, and this will be a chance for me to establish a relationship with them. And we all know that networking is by far the most important thing. I always say the most important thing is your reel. The only thing more important than your reel is your network. And it's because like, wow, I've seen people plenty of times, like, they're like, oh, I'm going to get this job. And then suddenly they hire their friend instead, and, or whatever. And it's because as one of my friends who used to be a producer at Weta would tell me, it's a lot cheaper to pick up the phone when hiring someone than to interview them as a group of, again, like the people interviewing are all charging, they're all senior people, so they're all expensive, like interviewing, flying you over, getting the visa, going through the lawyers, putting you up in a hotel, hiring you for 3 months before they then realize like, oh wait, this person lied on their resume, or they're terrible, or they're an a-hole, or whatever it might be. It's a lot easier just to pick up the phone and find out. Again, like the more people the easier it's going to be. And almost everyone, I'm sure, can say that the first job they ever got in the industry, it really came down to someone in the industry helping them out. It's almost always the case. And part of that, your reel is important. It proves that you can do the work, but it's still important for you to know people, because otherwise, like, it's a bottleneck. You've got 1,000 artists, sending their reels into Pixar saying, hi, I'm an animator. And it's just like that was one day. Like tomorrow we get another 1,000. Like, what's going to differentiate you? It's going to be the relationship. So going out of your way to establish those relationships is really critical. One thing I will say about applying for jobs and getting in and all that stuff in the beginning, like I'll approach this from a different perspective, which is, what if you're a bit older, let's say 30, 40, 50, and you decided, you know what, I've been doing what I thought would be the smart career thing, being a lawyer or whatever it is, my whole entire life.
Right.
Now actually you want to do what I care about, but is it too late? Because most of the time we'll convince ourselves that ship sailed, that at this point, I've got responsibilities and bills to pay, I've got family, all these other things. So I can't think about me and follow my dreams. I just got to bite the bullet and keep doing exactly what I've been doing my entire life. And it's not true at all. It's just, you're right. Like when you're 20, you can go and get a job and then suck at it and get fired and move on and be like, okay, I'll do something else now. But at 40, you got to be smarter about what you do. But that doesn't mean that you can't be studying online in your spare time, either getting up early in the morning. For me personally, I tend to work late, but I don't have an off switch where I could be like, okay, time to educate. But first thing in the morning, I can. So if I'm going to study, it's going to be first thing in the morning when there's no distractions. But either way, the whole point is that I want to get to a point where I have a good reel that I can start sending it around. But then maybe I can moonlight either on weekends or nighttime, whatever it might be, for other studios and just test the waters. Or I can go and take a job for a couple of weeks and just see if I like it without quitting on my other job. I've seen people literally take an unpaid vacation, go work in a different career, see if they like it. And I've done similar early in my career too, just to see, like, is this for me? And then they know, okay, I'm safe. Like, you know, the employer likes me, they offer me a full-time job, then I can safely transition out. Rather than saying, okay, I'm going to quit everything and change careers. It's not an on and off switch. It's more about, how do I set myself up for the next career, so that way I can, like, you know, if you go 2 trains, like jump from one train to the next. You don't jump onto the other train that isn't moving yet. You wait for that one to catch up. So I think it's just more about being smart, having a plan, and realizing that you don't need to do some rash, crazy maneuver like, I quit my job today, Tom Cruise style, who's coming with me, and then go to the next job. You can instead set up that next career so you can transition into it safely.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, I love it. You're bringing up a really good point. There's actually a really nice conversation. We're going to get to your questions too, by the way. So keep all those thoughts and anything you want to ask. We're going to get to ask these panelists here too, probably towards the end. But I did want to bring up that
10 Barrel Brewing Company pub beer, if that's what your question
was. But where's ours? You didn't bring any to share.
I had too much coffee, so I decided I'd switch in the other direction.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to echo that point. Just this week, because we opened up our animatic challenge, which is basically an opportunity for people to do storyboards along with us. I did a couple lessons. I'm showing people my method, and we're getting some older artists that want to make that transition into the entertainment industry. I get this a lot because, you know, I'm kind of at the front of what we're doing, but people that tell me, it's like, I've been working for X number of years at something I didn't like. And then now they want to make the change into the entertainment industry. They want to work on movies. They want to work on games. They want to do something creative and be an artist and express themselves. And my advice there is no limit. And I get this question a lot. It's like, oh, am I too old? You know, this is for kids, you know, the young, you know, go-getters that are doing this stuff. And man, I keep telling people that your life experience is actually really valuable, especially when it comes to visual storytelling, because that's where you draw on a lot of your experiences to create the ideas that we do visually. But it seems like you had that experience, Allan. What about you, Maria? How people made like career switches and transitions?
A lot. But you know, like another thing that I notice a lot is that in the industry, we're all lifelong learners. So some of our best students are not juniors. They're actually in the industry. And I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Because, you know, like, you can be teaching that. And I always get the same answer. I do it because I love it, and I do it because I want to keep loving it in the future. So also just kind of at the same time saying that I want to set a realistic expectation for everybody out there in the audience. Like, it's not that you get a degree and you're set for life. You'd better like it if you start learning it, because you're probably going to keep learning it forever, and not because you're forced to, but like partially you are because the technology is evolving, but also it's not that you have to, but at the same time, you'd better like it, and you'd better want to, just keep getting better. So a lot of our students just like come to push themselves, to push to the next level of their characters, next level of realism, next level of, look depth and texturing and everything. And the results that they get after even a little bit of an, hands-on experience is mind-blowing because like you get to work, you get to see what's the pipeline like, and then you get to upgrade your skills. And again, when you are in charge of your own progress, you're not doing it for the grade, you're doing it just like to get an outstanding result out of yourself. So
Yeah.
like basically we've got both, obviously, career transition, and I would say like I see a lot of this when people like get started with a new career right out of paternity or maternity leave. We've had like several students like that. They were like, "Oh, right, like I'm in Norway, Sweden. I've got 1 year of paternity leave. I'm gonna do it to become
Oh,
a character
great.
artist."
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen stories like that, and it was amazing just to see that it's actually it's working out. And besides it, so it's just like it's such an inspiration for like for me, definitely. And also. We've had like one of my favorite students, like a dad of 8, working in Germany
Wow.
and working in like one of the biggest studios, at the same time finding time to do a full-on program, not complaining about being busy or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
like because we like it. We like exploring and seeing how far we can push this, like this creative bug. So
Oh
yeah,
man, that's
yeah.
incredible. And
I
you're
see like
actually,
crazy stories.
I love it. You brought up the program part, and actually, I wanted to ask you both about that stuff. Can you explain a little bit about your program and how you take students through the training that you do and how it's set up? Because maybe that will help people understand how they can do this online. Like Allan, for example, I know you've just created. I got to say, it's got to be the best artist branding class out there. And I want to say in the whole world, man, this is amazing. You guys should, if you don't know about this, you should check out what Allan has done for his branding, artist branding. This is what I tell people to do this. I say, you got to network, you got to have a brand and create a brand. Right. And then you created a whole course on how to do this. And so anyway, I'm just curious of like how you set it up. How do people go through your courses and how do they learn what you know?
Well, the branding course, I think it's very different. I'd never created a course like that before. And it's because the more I thought about it, everyone seemed obsessed with like, hey, Allan, how do I blow stuff up? And it just frustrated me more and more that if they're not getting the marks, like if they're not getting the success that they want, they think, oh, I just got to learn this other program and then everything will fall into place. And it's just like, it's not the program. Like, great, you know how to do the thing, but you're not worried about your career. You're not worried about building up your network. Nobody knows who you are. You're not able to communicate what it is that you do. If you're saying I am an illustrator or I'm a 3D artist, that's the problem, is that there's 1,000 other people who are all communicating the same thing. And how are you memorable when you introduce yourself as I'm a 3D artist? I've got friends of mine who I've known for years. I knew that they were a 3D person, but one day I'm mentioning, or they're mentioning to me like, oh, I modeled this really amazing character model the other day. And that's when I'm like, wait a minute, like you do character models. Like if you had told me this years ago, I would have hired you 100 times already. And that's the frustration, is most people are trying to blend in by being a generalist, trying to tick all the boxes and say, I do everything, rather than saying like, this is my skills, this is what I'm known for. I can do everything, but I'm really well known for this. And that way people categorize you in their head. So for me, that's always been, thank you for that. That's
I'm
always
going to bring
been
up your website on screen. Hopefully that's, if you don't mind me pointing people to your website here. This is how you can find Allan. But yeah, so tell us more. Keep going.
So for me, it was a mixture of, it's kind of a business course hidden inside of a branding course. And that was intentional too, because I want to teach people to really understand that they are a business and they need to treat it like a business. And a lot of the times they think, well, I'll let my reel speak for itself. And that's awesome. You need a good reel. But the thing is, like, you could be the best artist on the planet, but if nobody knows who you are, how are you going to get work? The people who are front of mind for a specific problem, like if I'm working on a movie and I need fire or I need storyboarding, who am I going to call for storyboarding? So it's just important to understand, like, people have a problem, they have a need, and they need someone to solve it. And it's as simple as that. And it doesn't mean you need to be the best artist in the world. It literally could be the best artist in your client's Rolodex. Not that people use Rolodexes anymore, probably even know what they are. But it is literally just as long as you're front of mind when they say, I need a character model, I need a storyboard, whatever it might be, they know who to call for that thing. And as long as you're that, then that ends up being, you know, your brand, that your thing to own. And I've got plenty of friends who all they do is they get work on Instagram, as you mentioned before, like whatever their platform is. ArtStation is a chance for them to be able to capture people's attention, and then they associate that thing with their work. And then suddenly, whenever they think of that thing, they think of you. Whenever they think of you, they think of that thing. And that's ultimately what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up your website as people can check this out. I mean, you've worked on all kinds of films and just amazing, amazing stuff. This is what I say. It's like, this is coming from somebody who it has expertise in this area. So it's not like, okay, who's this? You go to some random like community college course and you're just not going to get the kind of depth that you get from people out there in the industry. So anyway, how long does it take to learn these things? Like what do people do when they sign up to your course? Like how do they go through?
That's a good point too, is that you're always going to be learning. So, you know, if someone came to me in any area and said like, I know it all, you know, I'd be like, okay, that's an instant dismissal for me, because it really makes me think you're not, you know, very clued into the world. So I think it's more about learning what you need. And that's one thing I did want to mention, then I'll answer your question. But I think that this ties back to what you guys were talking about earlier about like how to learn, when to learn. I think it's always important to learn just in time rather than just in case, because I think it's easy to say, I'm going to go and let's say go to college. And really what you're doing is you're saying, you know, it's probably for status. What is the reason behind that? Like you're going to college because maybe that is buying you time to say, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just studying this thing because I don't really want to go out into the real world yet. Like whatever it is that the real meaning behind it is, it's rare that you're saying, I want to go to college because I want to get a job in the industry right away and do all these things. Like if that was the case, you would just go and try and get in the industry right away and do all those things. So in general, I think that it's important to have an end goal of where you want to work or what you want to be doing. Be really clear on that first, because if you don't have a goal, then it's going to be a lot harder to be able to get to where you're going. Because if I wanted to work at ILM, sorry, Vinici knows, if I want to go work at ILM, then, you know, I'm not going to go and study like character animation, specifically like cutesy Disney, Pixar kind of animation, if my goal is to do creature stuff. Like whatever it is, like the more that I can get laser specific about it, it makes it very easy because I can declutter my path and get very clear on, okay, now I know what I want to do. And at the same time, having a goal, like something to apply what you're doing, is really important. Like someone emailed me about a year ago and said, I want to work actually at ILM. That's my dream goal. So I'm going to learn Maya inside out. I'm going to get the manual. I'm going to read it from front page to end page and know everything there is about the software. And my response was, do you know for a fact that they use Maya? And they do use Maya for animation, but that's strictly all they use it for. But my whole point is that if your goal is like, well, I'm going to read the manual and memorize it, that's not going to solve the problem. If you know what your goal is of what you want to do, then it's like, well, I just need to prove to them that I can do that work. So if it is that they do a lot of Star Wars movies or whatever, and you want to do space scenes, then go make a reel that really sells that over everything else. Like whatever it is that ticks the box of, we need this. I worked on a movie once right after ILM actually. And there was someone on my team that I didn't hire, and I, you know, just casually mentioned to the VFX supervisor at the time, like, why did you hire her? And he's like, oh, she had dust on her reel and we needed dust. And in a way that kind of simplified, like, okay, that makes sense, I guess. But it also kind of clarified things in a lot of ways too, that, you know, we literally need a thing. And if you have that thing on your reel, then it's like, okay, well, we can hire you for that thing. So that's all it comes down to. And that's why Instagram's so great, because there's going to be times where ArtStation, whatever it might be, but like someone might see a tornado you did and say, we need a tornado. So that Instagram, whatever it is, that's literally just a sample set of all the services you're providing. So again, it's a way to kind of put your services out there in a way that people say, well, we need that. Like that Santa Monica Pier that we're down there. We're just chatting about that. I put a video of that, just of like the LiDAR, because I did like a LiDAR scan of the whole Santa Monica Pier. And then I get contacted by a studio in LA saying, can we buy that model? Because they were destroying the Santa Monica Pier for this big tsunami shot. They're like, can we buy that? And again, the more that you're out there, and this ties back into branding and everything else, the more that you're out there, the more that people are aware who you are, and it's more opportunity for them to hire you. if you're hiding under a rock, then someone is going to have to be an archaeologist. I'm making up really bad puns on the fly here, but for them to go under that rock, there's going to be a reason for it. So it's a lot easier to go where they are and make yourself as loud and as visible as possible, which I think is really important. Now, to say it in 5 seconds to actually answer your question, usually my courses are, for the bigger ones, is a 1-year thing, and that's because I've been teaching courses for most of my career now. I've been doing tutorials, things like that, since '97, and I helped some of the bigger companies build their companies back in the day, and I always got frustrated because a lot of the courses were like 6 weeks long, and that's where I felt like, well, if I could spend a year with someone, like what could that be like? And I don't just do a year now because I know people want bigger results faster, but that's always kind of been my philosophy of like, what kind of results can we get if we just kind of like forget the little window of time and just really kind of go all in? And for me, my big secret is that I throw people in the deep end from day one. I want people to panic and freak out because it sets the bar higher rather than saying we're going to ease into things, we're going to learn the basics. It's like, no, like I'm here with you. I'm not going to like say, go do this and walk away. Like the whole point is that I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming through this. So it doesn't matter what level you're at. The whole point is how much commitment you have to the course. As long as you show up, then that's the main thing. So for me, it's always been put the training out there. Then every 2 weeks we do like a live call with a group, and that way I can answer questions. I can also review work, and I think the other thing too, I think we all do this, but there's no fluff. Like if someone's work's terrible, you don't say you suck, but at the same time, you don't say, oh, that's great. Like you say, this needs work. And I always treat it like as if you're in dailies in a real film. You're going
just like you would in a real studio, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what I've modeled after. And the whole point is that by doing that, it simply means that our goal is to get the shot approved by the director. So it needs to get incrementally better and better and better. And if you look back to where it was when we first started the shot to where it is now, is night and day different. But it's that gradual progression that really matters. And that's what this is all about. And I've always enjoyed that with reviews, is that I'll keep pushing and I'll be not harsh, but I'll be very direct about like, okay, this stuff needs work. What you're doing wrong is this. Let's, aim for this for the next review. And bit by bit, everyone's work gets better to the point where it does get approved. It gets a hire. They get jobs from the work that they've been doing throughout the course. So that's always been my goal. And it's just been really great now because I've actually worked with dozens of people in my industry who were originally students. In fact, just the other day I was out with some of the guys from Nike, and one of the guys mentioned this guy that he's working with. I'm like, oh yeah, that was one of my students. So it's just like, it's such a small industry now that like everyone who's gone through, not everyone, but like a majority of people have gone on to work at phenomenal places, big studios, and it's just been really rewarding to then.
Yeah, it's a small industry out there. You get to know a lot of people. That's amazing. Hey, Maria, I want to give you a chance too. Let me pull up your website here. So artheroes.co. And tell us about your program and how to do it, and why you telling us that. Let me bring it up on screen too.
It's very interesting because like I see how several things overlap, but we know it from before because we're closely in touch. So I'm sure that in certain ways we're an inspiration to each other. Allan, you're definitely one of my role models in this for sure.
Oh yeah.
Our favorite programs is likeness, and mentorship just went live. So I would say for us, a very strong differentiator here would be a community engagement, and what we do to make sure that everybody is motivated is actually keeping people in touch with each other. And there are several ways how to do this. Our top favorite is our squads program. So what we actually do, and I don't know if there are any of our students in the chat, but when we rolled this out, it was just like so successful. So basically what we do, we split artists in mini groups of like groups of 5-7 artists, and we make sure that everybody meets up about every 2 weeks. And what happens is that besides your instructor, besides your mentor, and besides your like forum moderators and all of us at Art Heroes team, you also get to hang out with really closely, with 5-7 other artists. So what happens that during the course of like 3, 6, 9 months, whatever is the duration of your program, you get to know this 5, 7 artists really, really well. And we've seen some like really impressive things coming out of this engagement. Some groups actually traveled physically to meet each other. Some became
Cool.
like lifelong friends.
Great.
And that's just speaking for what Allan was explaining in terms of, like it's a lot about networking. And I just wanted to say here that networking for us is not necessarily networking with your mentor, right? So your mentor is just one point of contact. But when you enter the industry, it's also important who you study with, because all these people that didn't know how to use Maya and they were like, how do I hold my tablet? Like in the end of the day, they're going to be decision makers in the industry. They're going to be the art directors. They're going to be hiring. They're going to be, they're going to be also pushing further. So it's just about, building these relationships over like your lifetime. So I think, and that's what we hear from our students, that at ours, they definitely get to build these relationships and with the peers and with the intake. And that's actually one of the reasons why we still operate in intakes. So, at different schools, you will find that you can join anytime and kind of start anytime. We definitely have like smaller programs that do this, where you can just let's say learn ZBrush fundamentals in 4 weeks, or learn 3D printing for artists in another 4 weeks. But our like full programs, they run in intakes, just because we want to make sure that these connections are not broken, that you start and you go through this experience with the same group of people, because it's not just about knowledge, it's also about being human. You can't
Yeah.
build relationships when people like come in and drop off, and you never know who's in the room. It's actually about getting to know other people, learning from them, helping them to get to the next step. So I think, that's besides all the video lessons, besides one-to-one feedback, besides paint overs, that's actually an important component of what we kind of try to orchestrate as a school, because that's, such an important like pillar of artist success, just being surrounded by other motivated artists and, really successful people in the future. So, that's just like one part of it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That community aspect is so important. And you make lifelong friends that you're going to be hopefully using as industry contacts for the future.
Can I
Exactly,
jump in
right?
and add something to that? Because I think what Maria said is so critical. Like, I think when it comes to networking, a lot of time people are like, oh yeah, I got to find the most important person in the room. And the thing is, I always call it the barrel of monkeys, which is that, let's say with college, I've seen so many people who are, we have hired like one junior artist, but then they're like, oh, well, my other friends, they're really good too. And we end up hiring all of their friends too. So whoever gets hired, they end up bringing with them all these other friends as well. And the thing is
So
that
true.
you don't know where you're going to be 10 years from now or 5 years from now. And you look
Yes.
at that trajectory of like where you are now compared to where you are 5 years from now. Think of everyone you know. Like, I have at least a dozen friends who are feature film directors that like have made some really big movies now with Michael B. Jordan and all these other big actors. And the thing is that when I knew them, we're buddies. I was, not to bring up 9/11, but I was thinking of the night of, anyway, probably a terrible subject to bring up, but like the night of, I was hanging out with them, and now like we all, like, that's back in Australia, and weird tangent to bring up, but like yeah, look at where we are now. Like, they're all in Hollywood directing feature films, and all of us kind of had our own path along the way, but now we're all working together, and it's really interesting to see where all of us can go over our careers. So the more that you keep in contact with all your friends at the beginning, whether you're studying with them, wherever it might be, if they've got goals just as well as you do. So you got to look at where you're going to be, but also where they're going to be, and how you can help each other out as you grow together.
Sure.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I'm bringing up a couple comments here because I think people are having similar experiences, and I just wanted to point that out. And maybe we can take a couple questions now from the chat here, because yeah, I think, like, for example, this one from Paul is talking about when we were mentioning with the degree, learn more from actually doing the work than at a company. You're surrounded with like-minded professionals. You're forced to be prepared and hone your skills. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I learned more on the job. There's no better film school than actually being on a movie, right? So cool. Let me bring this up. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for our amazing panelists here, this is the time to do it.
I actually, I wanted to give a heads up. Somebody just recently, I believe it was Amanda, but maybe it was somebody else. There was a short thread about a portfolio review, and I just wanted to say that we are doing a portfolio review, like among like all other portfolio reviews. I believe that's on Sunday. We've got 2 of our star instructors. And so if you guys, girls are into characters, and if you've got some characters to show in your portfolio, or just like a variety of like 3D type of related stuff, make sure that you drop in. We'd love to meet you. We're doing a portfolio review. I think that's, Sunday. Should be noon PST, if I'm not
excellent. Please pass us that info. We'll post it on our Discord forum, and also we'll just
share it to people. Awesome. Yeah, perfect.
Sunday portfolio reviews for art heroes. Excellent. Yeah, if you guys want to check that out, that's fantastic. Amanda, that'll be
great to meet everybody. We'll have some time to go one-on-one. There'll be a sign up form like right 5 minutes before the stream. So yeah.
Awesome. And it looks like Gervine here has signed up for our mentorship. Thanks for joining the group. It's going to be an amazing year.
Awesome.
And I'm really happy that you're part of it. So fantastic. Yeah. This is all, just the networking and everything that we have to do to improve ourselves. So that's what it is. And yeah, Amanda here was asking about the portfolio review. And
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't realize there were comments until I clicked the comments tab.
I'm bringing up Danielle here. Danielle is an amazing guy. I know this guy. He says, I'm 40 between Sergio and Allan. I improved myself and know not only that I'm at the point where I want to be, but also how to reach that goal. Well, you're welcome, my friend. You're an inspiration as well. And this is great that this is how we learn. You have to learn from other people. I keep saying that everything I know is because somebody else taught it to me. I don't feel like I'm just innately good at anything. It's because I paid attention and somebody actually said, hey, don't do it that way. Do it this other way, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, I think what Daniel Delgado said, I think it's just like such an important point. It's not only about learning, it's actually knowing what you don't know. So this is like tremendously important until you start exploring and open yourself to all this information and actually agree that you don't know everything. You're not gonna know more. So that's just like about exploration.
Absolutely. Yeah, I brought up this message here from Cheyenne. Speaking of networking, let's be friends, guys. My Instagram is @peppersketch_. All right, I love it. Yeah, you guys should all be sharing your info, your websites, IG, any kind of social media. That's one of the reasons why we're on here with these events, especially at an expo like Lightbox, and we want to take advantage of that stuff. Great. Do you guys have any parting words for these people? We're almost at the end of this chat, but like, what would be, if you could just sum it up in something, what would be some of the major tips you want to give people if they want to get an education online or just get ahead in the industry? Maybe it has nothing to do with education. Like, what would you say? What kind of advice would you give people?
Wow, that's a big
Maria,
one.
I'll point it at you. How about you, Maria? Start us off.
Yeah, definitely. So, I would say I would just keep talking about exploration. First of all, it's never going to stop. Like, your learning process is never going to stop. Just like as soon as you admit that, that's kind of the basis. That's just a healthy foundation. And the second one is probably not going to sound as nice, but meanwhile, you are not like learning, or is like what I like typically say. Meanwhile, you're watching Netflix, somebody else is watching a tutorial. So it's just like a way to remind yourself that, of course, part of it is about, let's kind of let ourselves study when we wanted, but at the same time, don't forget that we're living in the competing environment, and we just have to. It's our job to work on ourselves. So that's,
I
kind
love
of the second part of it. Just do not forget that it's just equally important to get the job and stay at the job. Somebody mentioned this in the chat, and I cannot agree more. You just have to keep proving every day that you're, that you're deserving, that you're worthy, that like there is nobody better than what you are bringing to the table. So, and no matter what age
Great
you
advice.
are, it's so flat. It's incredible how mixed, diverse, and like no matter where you are, nationality, location, age, uh, like guy, girl, like or you can be 15, you can be 55, you can be 75. So all of this like does not matter. Like and I'm always really happy to see this diversity in this space. This is really amazing, and thank you everyone for coming. This just brings this diversity to the next level that we're here
Yeah,
in this
awesome.
online space.
And Allan, how about you? What kind of parting tips do you have for people? What would
I
you
got nothing.
say?
Maria said it all. No, I think it's rock solid advice, Maria. So I think like I've been seeing now that I'm aware there's a chat, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about age, and I think that that's just something to kind of square away right away. Is that, as Maria was saying, that there's no
There's no limit, right? It
point in
doesn't
worrying
matter.
about that. Like, I know people who've entered the VFX industry, let's say as matte painters or whatever it is that they want to do at 50 years old. It doesn't matter. I used to have that age discrimination when I was a kid because I'd be like 14 trying to get a job in games, and I'd be like, yeah. So it's kind of funny to look at it from a different perspective. But I've seen, as well as mentored, a lot of people who were older and wanted that second career, which is why I brought that up. I do think it's really important to have goals. I cannot stress that enough, and to be constantly focusing on where you're at. I think the best advice I can ever give is just how you look at failure, because I think a lot of people two things I'll say is to not make excuses, like own whatever it is you're going through, because a lot of the time, again, it's easy to be like, oh, well, I'm not getting the success that I want because X. And instead of saying, I'm not getting the success I want because I need to work more on this, or I'm not getting traction here, or whatever it is that you need to work on. And it all ties together, because the more that you eliminate those excuses, the more that you're going to realize, okay, well, these are new goals that I got to work on. I got to eliminate this thing or this habit, whatever it might be. And I think that that's just really critical. And looking at failure as part of the process, because again, I think that most of us, maybe the reason why you might go to college for a couple of years to delay ever getting into the industry is because you're afraid of that rejection. You're afraid of getting started, afraid of entering the real world, whatever it might be. And the more that you realize, like, okay, like failure is just a metric to help me learn, like, is this working? Is this working? And even like, I look at everything I do as a failure, but I look at it as, okay, what worked, what didn't work. Every single win that I have, I'm looking at critically about what could I have done better. And it's not to say I'm hard on myself. It's just, I'm not taking it personally. I'm looking at, okay, I'm here, I need to get to there. And I might go off track a few times. I might fumble a bunch of times, but I'm not beating myself up, because I think that that's the big thing. And so many of us take it personally. One story I'll share, I was with Ian McEwen, a few of these other guys in Paris who are all big name illustrator guys. And we're at dinner at a restaurant, and this girl came up, and she was part of the conference that we're speaking at. She's like, hey, do you mind if I share my portfolio with you guys? And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. And about 5 minutes into it, she started crying, and we're all asking, like, why are you crying? And she's like, I'm 23 and I haven't made it yet. And she looked at herself as being a failure. And for all of us, it's just like, what are you talking about? You're 23, And I think that a lot of us put so much pressure on ourselves, and we think that, we look at someone else who has made it, they're doing phenomenally, and we just think, well, I'm not there yet. Like one of my friends, Beeple, he's considered like third most successful artist on the planet now, because he sold the NFT for like $90 million
NFT
or
superstar.
something. I look at him and Boss Logic and a bunch of other friends who are like the best of the best, and it's easy to look at them and be like, wow, they're in this whole other level. But you got to think that they're on their own path. We talked about career trajectory earlier, about like where you are now, where you could be. And it's cool to see all these other people getting wins, but don't look at that as like, well, I'm not getting the success that they're getting. Like, you don't know what it took for them to get to where they are before you started paying attention. So there's just a lot of stuff like that. Like, I think there's just a lot of trash that we have in our heads that we got to just stop taking it so personally. And if we have that goal, we're just focused on that goal. We're not focused on other people's goals. We're not focused on where they are. We're like, well, that's great. They're all killing it. I'm going to kill it one day. I was going to keep at it, keep moving forward.
Fantastic. That's such great advice. Guys, I really appreciate you being, dropping the mic on that one. I just want to point out to everybody who's watching this that this is part of our Lightbox Expo event. And you can see that on the screen. Go to pro.storyboardart.org/LBX 2021. And you can see this stream. You can see the replays of the previous streams. All of that is posted on our Facebook and YouTube channels. And then if you want to chat, come to our Discord. That's what we're doing there. And then you'll notice this one is our mentorship is now open. So for those of you guys who are interested in what we're doing in visual storytelling, you can see that. Go and click on that event page, and then I'll take you here to our mentorship page. And you can see the lineup of amazing mentors that are going to be there. These guys are all working in the industry. And yep, I'm going to be leading the charge. I'll be part of that group as well. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly encourage you to take a look. And yeah, awesome. Where can they find you? Just real quick, where can they check out everybody's work, and what's the best way to find you, Maria, for example? artheroes.co?
Yes, definitely. artheroes.co, or follow us on Instagram. It's at artheroes. Pretty straightforward. We constantly organize different events. Like, we do character challenges, we run boot camps. So that's kind of an ongoing basis. And actually, as we speak, we also run a character workshop week. So like, part of it is merged with Lightbox, part of it is like our external stuff, which is like more professional, like more in-depth. So if you're interested in character art and everything around it, this week our mentors are doing a bunch of presentations and a bunch of like workshops, like pretty hands-on. So you can definitely come learn with us, show what you've got, get a little feedback, and just it's definitely also a community that is learning together. So that's, probably the easiest would be either artheroes.co or Instagram. Would love to connect. And yeah, it's been an amazing chat. Thanks so much for organizing, Sergio.
Oh, you're welcome. And then Allan, how about yourself? What's the best place to find you and connect with you?
Hit me up on Instagram if you like, allanmckayofficial.com, I guess. If someone wants to share the thing in the chat, because I don't know how to do it because I'm illiterate, but otherwise allanmckay.com. But yeah, again, thanks for the opportunity. It's always great hanging with you guys. So it's fun to do it with some other people in the room too.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks to my amazing friends here and presenters. And you guys hang out. We're gonna leave this on a little trailer for those of you to see the mentorship stuff. But you guys hang out, and then we'll talk a little bit after the stream. All right.
Thanks so much, guys.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
The mentorship experience has been the best learning experience that I've ever had about story.
It was a game changer.
It sort of felt like it's been an extension of my schooling experience. I think the consistency of work, the challenge of the assignments.
This entire system that you have going, it is so perfect for the time we are in. Right evolution of the formula of online schooling.